Looks like we're recording and we can go ahead and get started. Well, welcome everybody. Good morning to the April 8th edition of the DAACAT call. As we were talking earlier, this forecast is just bounces around. I know when I was looking at it yesterday morning till yesterday afternoon, just chances of rain and temperatures are just kind of really fluctuating at the moment. And as you move south, and we'll see, we're going to walk through a lot of slides on weather slides, because if you haven't started receiving them, it is definitely the time of year that you're going to start getting calls from growers wondering, should I plant? When should I plant? What are the risks? So we're going to walk through a lot of that today. So agenda for today, we'll start off with the trivia question, just like I said. Go over all of the factors that goes into making the decision of when we go to the field. And then Nora's going to hit on some terminating cover crops and burn down. Is that moving forward, guys? Are you seeing that?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
So I guess to start off with the trivia question, and this is not a layup. So, what is causing this purpling of the corn plant? I'm not looking, somebody can throw in the nutrient deficiency, but what I'm really looking for is what is really the cause of this purpling that we see. I knew that was coming. Scotty, that's a good answer.
Eddie, Scott is not wrong there.
Scott is not wrong. There are some genetics that are predisposed to a little purpling early. Yes, it is indicative of a phosphorus deficiency, but is there any other answer of what's really going on in the plant of why we're seeing this purpling?
So we've got two correct answers, or fairly correct answers. Pius especially is right on, but yeah, looking for more detail.
We'll give it another.
Well, back in the day, there'd Treflan carryover, any of the dinitroanilins, you could also say would contribute to this.
There we go. There's the answer that we're looking for. Really, yeah, it is indicative of a phosphorus deficiency, but it's not able to take up that phosphorus to process the sugars that the plant is creating, through photosynthesis. And then you get that buildup of sugars or anthocyanins, is really the purple pigment. So that is the correct answer. Appreciate it.
Got to give Pierce an honorable mention there, because a lot of times cold weather, compaction, all those factors contribute to it, in addition to lack of phosphorus. But a lot of times those are the bigger contributing factors versus just plain lack of phosphorus in the soil.
Yeah, for sure. Cold, wet soils early in the year that are limiting root growth and the ability of the corn plant to access phosphorus and take up. So we'll kind of jump in here to the overall agenda. Like I said before, as we look at the forecast today, really different as you go throughout the trade territory. A little bit wetter as you go south, definitely not as dry as it is as you work north. Going around Easter Sunday with my father-in-law, looking at his stuff around Sioux Rapids. It was surprising how dry it was for the rainfall he had, and he was kind of itching. But as you work north, it was considerably drier. And then, you look at the rainfall chances. So this is for Spencer for the rest of the month. Yeah, we have, 40-50% chances of rain coming in on Thursday. A little bit higher chances as you work south. I think Ames is up towards like 80-90% on Thursday. And then, anywhere plus or minus 50% over the weekend. But we do see a little bit of a warming trend as you get out, into next Sunday, Monday, but again, some showers coming in. So I don't know if you guys ever see phone calls, but I've started to get some phone calls yesterday from several growers starting to think they want to go to the field.
Yeah, and you look at this forecast, you realize how much up and down there is, especially nighttime lows. But at least it looks like a warming trend heading in the right direction. So yeah, that question about when should I plant, and hopefully a lot of you are using the emergence risk forecast tool. Boy, this is the time to really use it if you're ever going to. It really has the value the next 2 weeks in my mind. So just several different locations here, going from Atlantic to home would be Spencer, Fort Dodge, and Cherokee. So you can see the northern locations, basically Clay County and Cherokee County, are in the high risk category, which high risk simply means it's projecting longer than 18 days for emergence to occur. And then Atlantic, for a southern location, I'm still saying medium risk, 15 days. In my mind, yeah, it still says medium risk, but if I can get corn up in 15, 16, even 17 days, I don't feel too bad about it. And of course, the biggest thing is, what is it like at the time that it's just about to poke through? Is it fighting a crust? If we don't have much of a crust, the ground is mellow. I've seen corn emerge well after even 3 weeks and still be fine. Not that it's ideal, but if it's not fighting a crust, it can hang in there for quite a few days and still give us a very uniform stand. But I think this is a good time to talk about the risk and especially the imbibitional chilling risk. And this is something that's new to the emergence risk forecast tool this year. Really looking again at the forecast, and we'll hone in here on the Spencer location, and this would be for planting date of this Saturday, the 11th. So, on the daily accumulation, it's showing green for the GDUs of basically Sunday and Monday into those days, of course, getting the highs into the 70s. But then we do have the cool down. And so once we get into that cool down period, of course, we're not accumulating any GDUs for a couple days. And then we've also got the forecast of that precip. So, what's going to trigger that alert is if we've got a GDU accumulation of 0 to 3 GDUs per day, plus the precip trigger, which is basically saying more than 1/10 of an inch, plus or minus 2 days from that particular planting date or that particular date listed here. So, yeah, we've got some warm temperatures. If it's dry enough, you might think, well, this would be a good idea to put corn in the ground. But this is kind of the classic case of we're going to cool down plus have moisture potentially in the forecast. And that is usually where you have some of your higher risk scenarios. If you've got especially some halfway warm soils that we're planting into, and then we get the cool down, and basically a cold rain is going to shock that corn seed. So right now, for several of these locations, but especially the Spencer location, that's showing a pretty high risk of chilling imbibition if we were to plant, say, over the weekend here.
And one thing, guys, that this tool does not take into account, this is all air temperature based. It does not take into account the current soil temperatures. So it's good to get your thermometer and just double check what your local soil temps are, because wet, damp soil will take more energy to warm up than dry soil. So especially for us Southerners where we got a lot of rain, we're going to need some extra energy. Some of these GDUs, air temp wise, we're building, but we're going to have some cooler soils potentially.
Yeah, for sure. I was up around just north of Bode yesterday and stuck a thermometer in the ground on work bean stubble, and it was 34 degrees at 3 inches. So we got some work to do.
It did hit frost, though, did it? Yeah, and this model does give an estimated soil temperature 2-inch depth, but like Nora said, that doesn't necessarily take that into account for the chilling imbibition. It's just there to look at. And of course, at 2 inches, you're going to see a lot quicker warm up than you would at the 4-inch depth.
And I don't know that it's taking into account cold water, right? It just reminder, it takes a lot of energy to change the temperature of water, whether it's on your stovetop or it's in the soil. Still takes a lot of energy to change the temperature.
So then jumping forward, looking at another planting date, this would be the 25th. So obviously a little quicker on the overall emergence. Still for Atlantic, really all these locations just in the medium risk. And this has kind of been the case really since we've been checking the last few weeks. Overall throughout the month of April, it's just not showing a lot of really hot temperatures to just move this seed along quickly. So, yeah, somewhat better, but still for Spencer and Cherokee, saying 17 days, planting on the 25th. And again, we know temperatures forecast this time of the year are going to change pretty rapidly, so that's why it pays to check it really daily, just to see how much change there is and see how much that risk level has changed. And again, going back to the risk of chilling imbibition and just how things look over the next few days here. If you happen to have soils that are dry and you really need to be planting, soybeans are a less risk. Not that they're no risk, but they are less risk than corn overall.
Yeah.
There's that precip. Yeah. Go ahead, Nora, and talk about that a little bit.
This is, we all said last year in our post-harvest meetings, we're going to do better at using the public tools available to us with you guys. So this is another mesonet plot. You can see the number down in the bottom right corner. And I thought this was just a good visualization of who got that heavy rain. I feel like the weatherman does a good job of showing us the future cast of the radar, but we never get what actually happened. So this tool is really great to see. And we did hear that Dave, who lives in Boone, got some excessive rainfall and matches this map. So we just wanted to show it to you guys, kind of who, what, where, when, why, of who might be running and comparing against different locations that you guys might have in your organization, just to put in comparison. So we do have quite a stretch in central Iowa that's pretty soggy.
Yeah, and as you work north there, east of Spencer, those were where I was getting some phone calls, as you can see on that graph, that it's just dry around there. So I did pull some estimated outlooks, 8 to 14 days. So this is looking, April 15th through the 21st. So get through this weekend into next. And this is on the left-hand side is the outlook for precipitation. So, if it's gray, you're near normal. The lighter green, you're a little bit leaning above average precipitation, and then similar to the graph on the right, gray near normal, the darker color orange or red, just the warmer you're going to look. So we are looking, the 8 to 14 day precipitation and temperature outlook is trending a little bit above normal for both, for pretty much our whole trade territory. So there's another nice chart that I like to look at too. So this is looking at all the weather models that go in to predict the forecast. So these are 4 different weather models. The black line is where we're at today, April 8th. You can see the frost zone, below 30 to 32 degrees there. The dotted red line is about 50 degrees. But really the thing we want to call out, we're going to see a warming trend, into this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. But then we're really going to get cool, the start of the week. That's really concerning if we're going to go to the field and plant corn, just with those cool temperatures. But as we look out into the end of next week,
not necessarily.
into Thursday and Friday, into the weekend, all of the weather models are showing a warming trend. So that's the conversations, at least I've had with some growers yesterday, is, yes, it's going to be warm. You might have some drier soil temperature, soil conditions, and going to be warm over the weekend. But that cool down beginning of the week with potential rainfall is really, really a risk to go to the field this weekend. So if we can get into, latter half of next week and into the weekend, it does look like all of the weather models are showing a warming trend, that we're going to be above 50 degrees. It isn't going to be a heat wave by any means, but it does look a little more conducive than it does right now.
Bottom line, Dustin, I'm kind of hearing you say, don't we get too much in a hurry. We know we can plant the corn in a pretty tight window pretty quickly, so don't get in a hurry.
Yeah, I know. I just really hesitant to go to the field this week, especially with everybody having high-speed planters now and being able to ram corn in a hurry. And you know how it goes when a grower goes to the field. I don't know if I've ever heard them say it was bad conditions. Usually it's always, oh, best conditions I've ever had. And then all of a sudden we got 700 acres of corn in the ground before a cold spell coming in.
You bet. So yeah, just, we had mentioned the imbibitional chilling, but for corn, that worst case scenario is, when we've got the corn in the ground, especially when it gets started and then does the cool down during that first 24 to 36 hours, and also having that cold rain. I mean, the cold temperatures are one thing, but like I've always said, cold and dry doesn't bother me so much. But if we're getting a cold drink for that water that's hitting that seed, that's always going to be tough. Going to take vigor out of that corn. It can still come up, but usually it's just going to take vigor. And there again, if it's going to be fighting a crust later down the road, it's just going to not have near as much push to make it through that crust. Soybeans, yeah, we talk about them being tougher and being able to handle it. A lot of times, the reason that is, it's just not as critical to final yield. To not have that picket fence stand. They can compensate, they can emerge over several days period and not be hurt as much as corn. But if we get that soil temperature below 45, we know it can still cause some issues there. But yeah, some of the data has shown that soybean seeds initially imbibed at 77 for 12 hours before exposure to 77, then no significant chilling injury occurs. So interesting if they can get that warm water first.
If we're gonna do questionable things, let's do them with soybeans, guys. Questionable things. Let's roll with soybeans.
Yeah,
soybeans are also slightly more forgiving to being mudded in than corn. I don't want to have a bunch of mohawked roots this year, guys. I'm not very forgiving on that.
Here's just some charts again talking about, just getting that picket fence stand in corn and what that can cost us in yield without, having late emergers. And this was put together from Iowa State from a while ago, but really, to figure out what percentage yield loss you have on an uneven corn stand, you really need to go out, take a stand count, and then count the number of plants that are behind. And then you'll get a percentage. Is it 10% of the plants behind, 25? Hopefully not 50% of the plants are behind. But so we need to get a percentage of the plants that are behind. And then you need to determine how far behind they are. Are they 1, 2 leaf collars behind? You're going to take that number of leaf collars that they're behind times 3, and that'll give you the days difference in emergence. And then you'll look at the graph on the right-hand side. So if you have 25% of your plants that are behind, and if they're a 10-day difference, that's going to be a 6% yield loss. 21-day difference, obviously a 10% yield loss. But this is just a good chart just to determine potential yield we left on the table, getting out there early, not having that picket fence stand. Anything else to add, Nora or Jim, on this?
I was just going to say, hopefully, if we're making that replant call, we're doing it before this stage. We're trying to catch it early. It's so much of a different threshold if we're, say, replanting, say, the 15th or the 20th of May versus the 5th of June. But yeah, once you get to this stage, that corn is good size. That 2 leaf collars behind, you just know it's going to be shaded, and a lot of cases act as a weed.
Yes, for sure. So kind of to get to what Nora said, and this is what I told a couple growers, if they can't sit still, we don't get rain over the weekend, let's not make a dumb decision, and maybe we can think about planting beans. So this data, I don't know if you guys have ever looked at it, comes out of Sean Connolly at the University of Wisconsin. He has a lot of good information on soybeans. There's a lot of great research. He puts them into called TEDs, and really what it is, it's kind of similar growing conditions, similar soil types. So like 4R, that would encompass most of the Des Moines lobe. and into southern Minnesota. So that has some of our area, and then 6R is kind of, in the center part of the state. I don't know why, Jim, you're left out here in northwest Iowa of a TED, but maybe it's just so easy to grow soybeans over there that it doesn't really really worry. That's what I usually give those guys a hard time over to the west. But if you look at, his data shows in, that Des Moines lobe, that 4R TED, that they've seen a 2.1 bushel decrease per week after the first week of April. And then kind of as you move south in that 6R, that purple, down towards Des Moines, it's not as drastic. It's about a 1.4 bushel decrease per week after the first week of April. So again, I think we've harped on this over the years, and definitely, the last few weeks, is we have seen a lot of benefit to early planted soybeans, and just wanted to show some data. If you guys have never been on his Cool Bean website, he just has a lot of good soybean information coming out of Wisconsin, and just wanted to share this information today. And then another chart pulled out of Iowa State, again, just showing, that yield increase to early planted soybeans. And then, the biggest thing to think here, obviously corn benefits to early planting as well, but there's a drastic drop off once you get about May 15th, just the yield decrease. Once you get past May 15th, it really starts to fall off the table, where you don't see that dramatic decrease in soybean yield. So, you can put an emphasis on planting soybeans earlier, but once the calendar turns, the first part of May, we really need to get the corn in the ground just to maintain yield potential.
And don't get too worked up about the calendar, guys. We want to make sure, especially right now for corn, it's a little bit more princessy, right? Like, we don't want to mud it in. We don't want to lose its neighbors. There's some other factors that could be more dramatic than the calendar at this point. And so as soon as we get, we see some good conditions, we will be the biggest cheerleaders for get that corn going, and we'll watch you guys put in, thousands and thousands of acres within a week. But right now, there's just some concerns. Like I said, sidewall compaction is super unforgiving. If it gets dry, it's just not going to be worth it to risk that or losing a stand. So try to talk through that with your guys. If you need some talking points, if you have some customers that just are really chomping at the bit and you're concerned about it, call one of us, call your sales agronomist, call your FSR. Let's have a talk and figure out how we can get them moving forward in their operation without doing something silly that nobody's happy with down the road. That's what we're here for.
Nora, are you saying April 8th is not too late? We don't need to start changing maturities yet?
I feel like some people feel that way. I feel like I have run into that this week, but we're okay. It's all good. Even
I know when I was having that.
In fact, a month from now, it'll all be good still.
Exactly.
It's good.
When I was talking to a grower last night, and same thing, you look at the extended forecast and into, next weekend, it's like, it's not late. It's still April 17th. We're not even in the 20th of April yet. So
some guys make it feel like it's June 8th already. We're getting a little antsy.
And I think everyone knows this, and it's been said a number of times, but there's not a lot of extra seed around for replants, of course. So gotta do it right the first time.
One other thing that we want to do right the first time is terminate our cover crops. So being in West Central Iowa, especially Sac and Carroll counties with all of our livestock, Crawford County, we have a lot of rye out there right now. And we have a lot of rye that is growing very, very well. Some beautiful seedings. And the only thing that's worse than, really big rye in front of corn is really big rye that we've ticked off. And now we can't kill because it's mad in front of corn. So I just wanted to drop this in there. I meant to put a picture in of my seeding across the road, but I forgot. Guys, this cool weather, it's great for rye growing. We know that it is difficult to get a sprayer out there to get it killed. So we have a couple talking points. There's a lot of words. We'll go through it real quick. We want, in a perfect world, 2 days, 48 hours of above 50-degree temperatures for those plants to be really actively growing. When we're going to go and spray glyphosate, we want that to be moving up and down the plant. We want it to go everywhere. We want to get that good kill. And if If it's in cold shock, if it's 32 degrees and it's just hanging out, it's not going to translocate that herbicide to get a good kill, and it's just going to get mad. So we want, if we can't get, the really warm temps that we want, let's shoot for spraying in the afternoon, right? We're going to get some warm afternoons. Let's shoot for that and at least get some more movement of sugars and everything in that plant to get that glyphosate moved around. So that 32 degrees that Jim showed on his when we were talking about imbibitional chilling, that we're going to need to take a pause after, but maybe this week, if we miss some rains this weekend, if we don't have winds like we have today, we could get some good kills because we want to terminate our rye cover crops 10 to 14 days before planting corn. And part of that, there's a lot of reasons for that. I'll go into that in the next slide. Soybeans, a little bit more forgiving. If you are at a location and you're like, wow, I got all this rye to kill, let's target our fields going to corn. I remember when I was a young seller, I went, where do I go first? Let's target our cornfields. Let's target our early planting guys first, because we want 10 to 14 days in front of corn. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So we can get yield drag from late termination of rye cover crop in front of corn for these reasons. So part of it is the more plant material we get, and we know rye can grow fast in these temperatures, that carbon to nitrogen ratio gets out of whack. So we want it to be in a perfect world, like 16-1 for quick breakdown, stuff like that. We can get it with big rye as high as 35-1. And that really ties up the nitrogen that you put out there for corn. So we want to make sure if we're getting late, if the rains and the winds don't agree with us and the temperatures, if we have some big rye, we want to do some additional nitrogen to balance that out, help break down that rye and put some of that nitrogen back into free availability for the corn plant. There's also, not right now, I know with the rains, but maybe in Dustin's part of the world, we can see some moisture depletion issues with big rye. I know I've experienced that at the Schultz Ranch. We get, all of a sudden it gets too big and it is powder dry when we go to plant soybeans in there. There's also the allelopathic effects, and that's one of the big things about the 10 to 14 days is it's DIMBOA and MBOA, like that's, it's a whole bunch of letters that I don't know what they mean. But they are some compounds that rye produces to inhibit root growth of plants that are next to it. So that's why it's really good at suppressing weeds. But when we kill the rye, that is, those compounds really become concentrated along with all the kind of other decaying grossness, and they can really impact corn. Along with pythium, there seems to be a partnership with pythium and decaying rye that corn in that first week, it won't be happy if we put it in. So we get a rain on it, we get that breakdown for 10 to 14 days, we should be fine. There's also reduced crop stand. We know that if we're planting into big rye that we didn't get sprayed or rye that is unhappy, we're not going to get the planting conditions that we want. We're not going to be able to get the seed depth that we want or the row closure. And then in general, there's just stress causes stunted growth. Like all of the four things above can cause a stressed and stunted corn stand. And that's not what we want at 450 corn. It's just not acceptable. So if we go to the next slide, this is a study out of the University of Minnesota from 2022. And why I wanted to show it, it's different ways of products of termination. And if someone wants the different rates and stuff like that, I can give you the link to the study. But what I wanted to show is that there is still hope if it does get big. We're not shooting to go out and kill big rye, but there's hope. We can see that something like a Select Max won't work. We might need to change the product that we're aiming to use, but we still can get good kill of a big rye crop. And part of this is because as we go to the heading stage, this was done, if I remember correctly, was like 30 days after the first application. So it's warmer out and the plant's already coming to the end of its life. So that's one of the reasons why some of this, you see the bigger heading stage rye has this better kill in the A category. It's warmer, it's coming to the end of its life. That's helpful. So If anybody has any questions, give us a call, but we want to make sure you're shooting for warm temperatures. Let's, use full rates of products. Let's go out and get it killed right the first time because it can get angry. Do you guys have any comments about rye?
That's what I was going to add, Nora. Glyphosate's pretty cost effective right now. So, I mean, I've just go out with loaded gun, and go with the full rates because why skimp on it? And along with that too, go out and kill the rye and don't try to do multiple things. I know we've done some things in the past and I'm going to put on my nitrogen as well as, my burn down. Nope. Let's make a dedicated application of we're going out to kill this cover crop and not try to do multiple things at once to save an application trip.
Because at least when I'm driving in the countryside, there's a lot of big rye. There's a lot of just wonderful seeding, guys. Good job. But it's going to take a little bit of work to get her killed.
Yeah, all good points. If the forecast holds and it's not too wet, Monday looks like a really good day. We're coming off, some 70s and nighttime lows in the 50s. So if that forecast holds, like hopefully it will,
we will get some
plan on Monday as a big burn down day.
Yes. Well, stay safe, you guys. I know there's, not a whole lot going on with all the weather, but it is the crazy season. So we want you guys to be able to go home after working a hard day. So thanks for being here this morning.
Yep. Appreciate everyone for being on, and congratulations to Kaya again. Another winner. She's repeating from last year. Jacob had asked a question in the chat in case you didn't happen to see the chat as far as access to the emergence risk forecast tool. It is through My Crop, through your dealer portal. So hopefully you're able to access that. If you're not, we're always glad to run reports as often as you need. So let us know or let your FSRs or SAs know.
Yep. Any of us within Bear can run that for you.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Take care.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.